touch the cheese cake. Cheese, just don't touch that. Do it. Keep doing it. Then you will slice. Just suck it out. He's got the cheese cake so I can suck up the right person. Me, it's only that big. Hey, buddy. I don't care what she said about you, you okay about that? Shots of your editing stuff? I'm going to go edit the both sides. He's going to run the full camera while I edit. And then when I get done, I'm going to come back in here and you can go and set the last shot up. Just like how we did it yesterday with Max. Why we're tracking this package? It's all because that's why. That's probably why. We just want to make sure he's good, right? If you ever have children, don't let them go into television games.
cardboard. Delicious cardboard. That's impressive. Well, good to be young. I forgot those days. Hard. Hold it. We're on the record. There's a small issue. What is it?
Interpol has requested the file for Omar Felix, the gun person, the working file. So formerly we used to just call him up, hey, email it over. I guess their procedures changed. Omar says he can't just email it over. We have to go through some formal request, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to ask that you sign, Mr. Ramsey's going to prepare a court order. We ask that you sign it for it to just be released today, and then we'll email it over to him that way.
Sure, no problem at all. And did you guys work out the issue with the bullet fragment pictures?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much to both sides. You got everything out of me the past 7 days prior. Just make sure you know if your witness is back. Do you know? She's out right outside? No problem. Just want to make sure she's there.
No, I'm saying, yeah.
We're all here. And they're ready to go. Lawyers, are you ready? Could we call the witness in, somebody, please? Okay. We'll break on time today.
Good point.
All right, doctor, come on up. Watch these plugs. And once he gets in there, bring in the jury, please.
re-entry?
All right. Everybody's got charged back up. We have the witness, you're still under oath. And Ms. Nixon, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Dr. Juste, I was showing you some photographs, actually 228 through 236. I believe you had an opportunity to review these photos,
Yes.
correct? And are they a fair and accurate representation of bullets and/or fragments or projectiles that you recovered from the body of Sean Henry?
Yes.
At this time, the state offers into evidence State's Exhibits 228 through 236.
Any objection? Admitted.
Dr. Juste, I just want to show you a couple of these photographs, and this is 236. When you talk about, when you look internally and some bullets are lodged in the body, sometimes it's fragments or projectiles, is this an example of what you recovered from Sean Henry's body?
Yes, these were recovered from the body.
Okay. And in some instances, the projectile may not just be fragments, it may be a whole piece,
Yes.
right? Okay. And that was 231. You testified earlier that in addition to taking photographs of the entire body and throughout the process, there are also x-rays that are done. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you talked about most of the gunshot wounds that Sean sustained were on the right side of his body, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the right arm, this is 255. And what do we see here?
It's a broken bone. One bullet hit the bone pretty head on. And you can see small fragments of the bullet because the bone being so hard.
Just a pointer, laser pointer, to just show us what is considered fragment.
All right, this is the bone, and that's where it's fragmented. So it's broken.
Okay. And then, are you able to pick up fragments or projectiles from the bullets on the x-rays as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is 253.
Yes, these are all fragments of bullets.
Okay, that would be what?
Tiny fragments, yes.
Okay. And then in 254, on the left arm, is that a bullet that we see lodged?
Yes, right here.
Okay. Now, when you collect the fragments or bullets from the body, are they packaged separately and labeled according to where they were recovered from in the body?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's already been admitted into evidence is State Exhibit 105 and 104. And just as an example, each part of the body where you recover some type of bullet or projectile, are they packaged into these envelopes?
Yes, they are packaged with the evidence tape and sign.
Okay. And is that your initials that we have here on each envelope?
Yes.
Okay. And in addition to that, is there a label indicating where the projectile or the bullet was recovered from in the body?
Yes.
Okay. And is that done for all of the projectiles or bullets that were collected?
Yes. Once we track the bullet to the end of its path, we remove the bullet and we label where we found it.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
You may.
At the conclusion of the autopsy that you performed on Sean Henry, were you able to make a determination as to how many times Sean Henry was shot?
Yeah, by the number of projectile of holes that he had, and by the track, by the way we have bullets that we have gunshot wounds that entered, leaving a bullet, and we have gunshot wounds that entered and come out.
And how many times was he shot?
Actually, I didn't stop and count them.
Okay, are you able to tell us?
I could if you let me do that.
Yes. Yes, please, I appreciate that.
Excuse me, do you happen to have a pen? Thank you.
Pen?
Deputy to the rescue.
I counted 17
Okay.
shots.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Counsel.
How are you? Now, Dr. Juste, how many autopsies do you think you do in the course of a year working at the Palm Beach County Medical Examiner's Office, roughly?
Roughly, I would say in the course of 11 years, close to 3,000.
Okay. And during the course of any particular autopsy, you painstakingly document your findings in each case by photography, as we saw today, right?
Correct.
Also, by a very thorough and detailed report, correct?
Correct.
And also by the use of different diagrams and charts that you can draw and write on in order to document your findings, correct?
Correct.
And today we've seen that you've been frequently consulting your report in order to refresh your recollection as to the particular injuries in this case, correct?
That's correct.
Because it wouldn't be possible for you to sit here off of the top of your head and talk about this case or any other case that you've done.
No.
Okay. I'd like to show you part of the file in this case, and this is defense composite 5A through F. Could take a look at those and just see if you recognize those.
Yes.
Okay. We'll have to show you each of them so we make sure we're on the same page.
Sure.
So these look familiar to you as the diagrams that you created as part of the autopsy in this case, correct?
Yes.
All right. John, I'd move defense composite 5A and F in evidence.
Any objection? Admitted.
All right. Just to publish a couple of them. It's about this handwriting, the notations, the errors and different markings that we see on these diagrams. Those were actually done by you, correct?
Yes.
Now, I think you concluded your testimony with the state counting up and trying to determine the number of times that Mr. Henley was shot, correct?
Good.
Now, I think your final answer today was 17. Am I right about that?
I counted 17.
Okay. Do you remember giving a deposition in this case?
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Ramsey, I believe, was the attorney from the defense that came to that deposition and asked you questions.
Yes.
And it may not stand out to your mind because you probably give depositions very frequently, correct?
Correct.
The defense and the prosecutor will come to your office at the medical examiner's office, right?
Right.
And we will have gone there with the reports that you've authored, the photographs that have been taken, and all the parts of your case file when we go to that, right?
Correct.
And it's our chance to ask you questions about your specific findings in the case because you're the medical expert and we're just attorneys, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review your deposition prior to your testimony today?
Not today.
Okay. I'd like to show you page 32 through 36 of your deposition. There's 32. I'd like to draw your attention to sort of the middle of the page there. I think it starts on page, line 10. And I think Ms. Ramsey asked you, I actually was just trying to figure out if you had an idea of how many times Mr. Henry actually been shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, okay, I understand. And then you went through during the deposition over the next 4 pages, just like today, and you went through your report and counted, correct?
Apparently.
Okay. Well, you can take a look at that as a progression about that particular time.
What number did I come up with?
Well, your answer's on page 36. Let me know when you're there on 36.
Yes, I see what I said. So.
Okay, so, and during the deposition, when you were asked that, you answered that at least 12 that are separate wounds that we know definitely came from separate bullets, right?
Yes, that was my answer.
Okay. Different than today?
Hold on.
Different than today?
I don't think the questions were the same.
Okay. And I understand that in this case, you're having a difficult time because of the number of gunshot wounds determining what's an entrance, what's an exit, if this is connected to that one or whatever, right?
He was shot multiple times.
I understand, ma'am. I understand.
Well, you know, I'm going to probably count sometimes the exit wounds as an entrance.
Okay.
You know, I may have given different numbers. I may have counted some exit for entrance. But I don't see the point of the question. Would you please tell me?
Well,
If that's a mistake you pick up from this report?
I don't know if it's a mistake or not, ma'am. I was just asking the
Well, he
question.
was shot multiple times. He was
Okay.
shot twice in the head. They are fatal wounds. He was shot multiple times in the body, and several of those wounds are fatal.
Yes, ma'am, we understand.
That's
We
the
discovered
fact.
that. So, and just so I'm clear,
Yeah.
your counting today was 17 separate shots, correct?
I counted 17.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe if you give me the time, I'll count another number.
Okay. And at the time of the deposition, under oath, ma'am,
Yes, I went to the same thing and went through wounds, you know. I don't think that's the,
All right, just
what's
pause,
really
Doc,
important.
Doc, just pause there. Wait for the next question, please.
Okay.
and ma'am, at the deposition, your answer when asked was 12 times. Is that correct?
That was the answer you asked me, and I said 12 that were definitely, let me see how I answered that. So we count at least 12 that are separate wounds that we know definitely come from separate bullets. But there are other ones that may or may not be coming from that part of the body that has already been hit. Yeah, that was my answer. Normally, we do not go and assume that a hole that's in the body have come from the arm. Let's say somebody's shot several times in the arm. But also this is possible. It happens that bullet, and I don't know if you recall, there was a wound that I call atypical, and I said because of the proximity of the arm. But I have no way of knowing for sure. So when I'm counting, I count them separately. But definitely they could have come from the arm, come out, and then enter the body. Yeah.
Dr. Juste, you recognize that in a case like this, the parties, that means the defense and the prosecution, we rely on the things that you tell us during a sworn deposition. You understand that, correct?
I do.
Okay. And you understand that in a trial, a jury relies on your expertise and what you say.
Correct.
Okay. Now, some of the wounds that Mr. Henry suffered were what you described as perforating wounds, correct?
Correct.
And that is sometimes a wound that would be very easy for you to count, correct? Because you have an entrance and an exit that correlate, right?
Yes.
And so you can say that was caused by a single bullet.
Correct.
All right. Now, in terms of the conclusions that a forensic pathologist like yourself can make, you're not able to make a determination about what particular gun, make, model, or caliber fired a particular bullet, correct? That's not your job, right?
No, it's not. It's out of my field of expertise.
And
But sometimes when we find certain bullets in the body, we can definitely tell whether it's a small caliber bullet, whether it's the rifle bullet, or it's a regular handgun bullet such as a 38 or 45. They are easily recognizable. And bullets fired from rifles tend to be high velocity bullets, and they tend to essentially break upon going through the body, causing extensive injuries, and they have particularities in the fragments. So you can roughly say that you have a bullet that's from a rifle, and you can say when the bullet is a small caliber type ammunition. But essentially we are not dealing with the firearm itself. What we have is the ammunition or fragment thereof. So we make a general description of what we find.
And so, to go back, your job isn't to identify a projectile or fragment that you find from a body to a particular firearm, isn't that correct?
No.
Okay, I think that was my question. Now, you mentioned that sometimes you may be able to locate an intact projectile that hasn't fragmented or been damaged, correct?
Right.
And that may be a projectile that you might, although unable to say what caliber it is, might be able to say, I suspect that's from a handgun, correct?
Well, you know, most handgun bullets are usually recognizable. Usually a certain caliber and shape, but you can make a distinction from fragments of bullets that have come from high velocity weapons. Like I said, they usually fragment in a certain way and leave characteristic pieces that you can identify as being fired from a rifle. But most handguns, you know, you cannot say that this bullet was fired from that particular gun or from this type of gun, because a lot of bullets are can be fired from many guns.
And in this particular case, you encountered bullets that had fragmented into multiple unrecognizable pieces, correct?
Correct.
You also encountered some projectiles that were intact.
Correct.
Now, you encountered injuries to Mr. Henry that were of the perforating nature, where you did not recover projectiles or fragments, correct?
Correct.
And in those for perforating wounds like that, where you don't find a bullet or a projectile, you're not able to say what specific caliber firearm fired the bullet that caused that injury.
You're right.
Right? For example, the perforating injuries to Mr. Henry's head. You can't say if that's a .40 caliber or a 9mm or a .38 or a .357, correct?
No.
Because those are all similar size bullets that would be fired from a handgun, correct?
I am not an expert in firearms. However, from my training, I can tell that bullets that usually are fired from well, I can say that ammunition that are, let's say, big calibers tend to do more damage, especially in the head. Bullets that fired, let's say, from rifles, when they go to the head, they usually cause extensive injury. The head is usually never intact. So one thing I can say is that the bullets that were used in his head did not come from a rifle. They came from a handgun.
Okay. I think my question to you, ma'am, was those injuries to the head, the 2 gunshots, you wouldn't be able to say whether those were caused by a .40 caliber pistol, a 9mm pistol, a .357 pistol, or a .38 pistol, correct?
No.
All right, thank you. Now, some of the injuries to Mr. Henry's torso, some of the places where you found fragmented bullets, you don't know whether those were caused by a rifle round, as you described, correct?
Well, we found fragments in his body that are consistent with rifles, so.
And some of the exit wounds that are larger on Mr. Henry's body would also be consistent with a rifle round, correct?
Correct.
Now, you talked about about how difficult it is to make conclusions about the position that a person was in when they were shot, right?
Yes.
And those are difficult conclusions to draw because you don't know the relative positions of the person who's firing the shot and the person who's shot, right?
Yes.
And the way that people are moving, both the person who's firing a gun and the person who's being shot by that gun could affect those kinds of conclusions, right?
Right.
And so you're able to describe the directionality that a projectile travels through the human body, right?
That's what we do.
And you use what you call the anatomical position to describe that,
Correct.
And then obviously your findings cannot determine which person or persons fired the shots that caused those injuries, correct?
No, we can't.
In every one of the autopsies you perform, you also have toxicological testing done?
Toxicology, yes.
Okay. And that was done in this particular case?
Correct.
And the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, I'm sorry, the medical examiner's office doesn't do that testing at the office, right?
No, we send the specimen to a specialized forensic lab.
And at the time of this autopsy, you were used in a laboratory called Wusthof, is that right?
That's correct.
And what were the results of the toxicology in this particular case?
Well, Mr. Henry's toxicology reports indicate that he had alcohol on board. One second. He had alcohol on board. He also had cocaine and alprazolam, which is Xanax, and caffeine. He also has marijuana on board.
Any redirect? Take your time.
Dr. Just going back to the questions you were asked on cross about how many times you stated in your deposition that Sean, how many gunshot wounds he had. You recall that? Okay. And is it correct that you said he had at least 12?
No,
I mean, in here.
the answer was he had at least 12 that entered the body.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That you identified as separate wounds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And was that a certain number that you gave when you said at least 12?
No.
Okay. And could it have been more?
Right.
Okay. And you testified today that there were approximately 17.
Right.
Okay. Now, would you agree that a case of this nature, when it comes to you as a medical examiner, that you are just a piece of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And you are not a firearms expert, correct?
No.
And despite not being a firearms expert,
Sustain.
okay,
Rephrase.
are you a firearms expert, Dr. Just?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Despite not being a firearms expert, are you able to identify when performing an autopsy what a bullet looks like?
Yes.
Are you able to identify what a projectile or a fragment looks like?
Yes.
And as a part of your job, do you collect those pieces and you preserve them in the packaging that we showed the jury not too long ago?
Yes.
Okay. And as a part of your job and what you are relied upon in an investigation such as this, by what you write or the things you say, are you tasked with determining the manner and cause of death in a case such as this?
Yes.
And did you make that determination in this case?
Yes.
And was the cause of death multiple gunshot wounds?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
No further questions.
All right. You may step down. Thank you, doctor. Watch your step. State, you have another witness lined up?
Yes. CSI Bryant.
CSI Bryant, please. And did you give him that order? Here, me. I got the order, I signed it, and they're going to make a copy for you guys. Can you do that? Ms. Bryant, come on up. Come right all the way up to the front. Watch your step, though. We got some plugs here and wires. And when you get around this screen here, if you'd raise your right hand and face Mr. Clerk for us. Terrific. Have a seat right up there, ma'am. Watch your step. Once you get situated, if you do me a favor, grab that microphone. The base of it moves. It's flexible. But I want it directly in front of your mouth so you speak directly into the center of it. A lot of times people want to turn to the jury and then they talk to the side of it and it doesn't work. Okay. All right, here we go. Tell us your full name and spell it for us.
My name is Teresa, that's Teresa, Bryant, Bryant.
And state when you're ready. It's okay, you're organizing.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bryant.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. How are you employed?
I'm employed with the town of Jupiter as a crime scene investigator.
How long have you been a crime scene investigator with the town of Jupiter?
15 years.
What do your duties include?
Responding to crime scene, documenting and preserving evidence, writing police reports. Sometimes we do public relations things with the police department. So.
What type of training do you have?
Well, I have a lot of training. I have a lot of training in special disciplines such as blood spatter and latent prints, tin prints, ballistics, any kind of specialty we constantly are getting trained in to learn and keep abreast of all the new technology and things like that. So.
And as a part of your job, do you have training or you've been trained on when responding to a crime scene, how to properly process that scene?
Yes, that's usually in the first year when you're with your field training officer. You're taught all of that.
Okay. I want to turn your attention specifically to February 2017, specifically a shooting that happened at 1105 Mohawk Street on February 5th, 2017, Super Bowl Sunday,
yes, as
it's been referred to. Did you take part in this investigation in your capacity as a crime scene investigator?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I want to talk about how it is you initially got involved in this investigation.
I was notified by my supervisor. I was on call at the time, so I got the call just before midnight, and I was told to respond to a possible shooting and to respond to the police department. I would get further details when I got to the police department.
Okay, and is it, sometimes do you respond to the police department or sometimes do you respond to the scene? Does it just kind of depend?
Yeah, usually we get told the address where we're going to go, and we actually go to that address. However, in this situation, I was told to go to the police station because we weren't quite sure exactly how we were going to use everybody. And my partner, the other crime scene investigator that works with me, she lives closer to town. I live an hour away. So she was able to go to the actual scene before I got there.
Okay, and at that time, were you working day shift? Because I know you said you were on call.
Yes, our regular hours, my regular hours are 8 to 6. I work a 10-hour shift. And so at that time, I was in my off-duty time. So.
Okay, so you get the call and you respond to Jupiter Police Department.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and once there, do you recall who you met with?
I didn't meet with anybody at that time because when I was en route to the police department, I was on the turnpike, and my partner called me and told me to go to a certain address.
Okay, so you never make it to the police.
So at that point, I didn't go to the police department.
Okay, and where is it that you were, and who was your partner? So we can give her a name.
That's CSI Tracy McClendon.
Okay, we've met her.
Yes.
Okay, so CSI McClendon calls you and says, divert you to a different location.
Yes, she did.
And where is it that she tells you to go to?
It was a neighborhood called Paseos, and it was an address in that neighborhood.
Okay, and now, that particular neighborhood, once you arrive, are there law enforcement officers there?
Yes.
Okay, and do you speak with anyone prior to entering the crime scene? Or even when you're inside of the crime scene at Paseos? Was there someone there telling you what was going on?
When I get on the scene, the first thing I do is I look for one of our officers, and I kind of ask them what exactly do you need me to do, to get an overall view of what actually has taken place and what they've done so far in case anything's been moved or the scene's been altered in any way by paramedics or whatever. And I just get a feel of how I need to start processing the scene.
And when you respond to a crime scene that you are tasked with processing, and you get a brief synopsis of what is believed to have happened, are you only photographing what the crime may be? For example, if they say, hey, we have some blood that's here in the roadway that we think is relevant, do you only photograph the blood, or do you kind of photograph the blood and things in the surrounding area?
Well, the very first thing we do when we begin our processing is we photograph, because we want to document the scene as it was when we arrived on the scene. So therefore, we take what we call overalls, mid-range, and up-close photography. The overalls consist of the crime scene and the surrounding areas around that crime scene. Then the mid-range kind of moves into the crime scene itself, or the evidence that we're focusing on. And the up-close photographs are focusing on the actual piece of evidence that we're trying to document.
Okay. And is that what you did in this case?
Yes.
I'm going to show you some photographs. As part of the process in this case, did you photograph the scene?
Yes, I did.
And did you learn that there had been an individual that was found in the roadway?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Did you learn that there had been some items that were believed to belong to him that remained in the roadway?
Yes, I did.
And did you photograph those items as well?
I did.
Now, in the course of
Were they already dealt with by Ms. Richstone, or are we got duplicates going there? Could you repeat the numbers for Damien, please?
203 through 207.
Yes, correct. No problem. It's all right.
I'm going to show you these photos. Excuse me. It's 203, 204, 205, 206, and 207. If you could take a look at these photographs for me.
Okay.
Recognize those photos?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm going to show you some more photos. Just hold on for just a second for me. It's going to be 198 through 207. They are already in evidence. We can take a look at those photographs. Do you recognize these photos as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And are these photographs that you took of the scene in the Paseos neighborhood?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And how would you describe, if you recall, what the weather was like that night?
Oh my goodness. I think it might have rained. It might have rained that night, I think, a little bit.
Okay. It was definitely dark out. Do you recall
Oh, yeah.
about what time it was?
Yeah, because it was after midnight when I got there.
Okay.
It was right after, like probably about 12:30, something like that. Close to 12:30, 1 o'clock, somewhere around there.
Once you were made aware of what was going on, and you start to photograph items believed to be related to what was going on, do you photograph them in their original place where they are when you arrive?
Yes, I do.
And do you put stanchions next to them to identify them using numbers?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and is this photograph an indication of the markings you put by each of the items?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you also, that is number 207. And at some point, did you also take some type of marking to circle the items as well?
Yes, I have reflective chalk, and when it's dark out, it's easier to see what you have in the road if you basically mark it with the reflective chalk, because your flash on the camera will like illuminate that more. So even if it's moved, you still have that area that you know that the evidence was in that spot.
Okay, and this is 203 indicator showing, is this a reflective chalk?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you made those markings around the items.
I did, yes.
And when you photographed, did you take multiple photographs of the items?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in doing so, did you also take, even though they're items together, did you take close-up shots? This is 206.
Yes, like I said, we go from overalls, mid-range, and then we go into photographing the specific piece of evidence we want to document.
And in 205, what do we have here?
That is a magazine, and there was a black glove.
Do you recall whether there was more than one bullet inside the magazine?
The magazine was fully loaded, yes.
And do you recall recovering or taking possession of an individual bullet?
Yes.
And what do we have here in 204?
That's just documenting the blood stains on the street.
Now, you, in addition to taking photographs of the items that were in the street, what other types of things do you photograph?
Well, there's cars that are around the area, so that were within the vicinity of the evidence, so I documented the cars by photographing them. And there were 2 vehicles there, so I just went around and photographed each side of the vehicle, the front, the back, and the 2 sides, and then the registration or the Florida tag that was on it, or a tag. And I try to get the VIN number. If it's visible, I will try to get the VIN number as well, just to document the vehicle, that it is the same vehicle that I'm working with.
Now, when you are photographing this area, you said you photographed a vehicle that was also in that area. Do you have any idea, or do you know whether this vehicle is involved in any way in the investigation?
When I'm doing it, I just try to focus on what's around the crime scene, and there were 2 vehicles, so I photographed both vehicles and documented both vehicles exactly the same. I don't know whether that vehicle belongs to a resident that is right there because it's a residential area, or if it's parked there for overnight for some guest that's there visiting somebody. But because it was within the vicinity of the evidence, I photographed and documented the vehicles.
Okay. I'm going to approach you and show you State's Exhibit 203 through 207. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I did.
And are these photographs that you took in the Paseo neighborhood?
They are.
Okay. And I'm going to publish for you 204. And this is the vehicle.
That is one of the vehicles that was at the scene.
Okay. And this BMW, did you know that it was, or that it could potentially be related to the investigation?
No, it's just because it was right next to the evidence, I documented the vehicle parked there.
Okay. And other than the body of the car, do you typically attempt to photograph the thing?
Yes, anytime I'm photographing a vehicle, I try to do the tag, and then I also do the VIN to match with the tag, to show that this is the vehicle that I'm actually photographing, and this is the said vehicle, just because I'm not putting a black car with another black car.
And what happened when you went to photograph the VIN?
I noticed that it was covered by, I don't know if it was a business card or some paper that was over the VIN.
You took a photograph of where the VIN would be, but you were not able to do it.
Right. Mm-hmm. I might have got like a little piece of it, but most of it was covered up.
After photographing the scene in the Paseos neighborhood, did you package up the items that were
I
in the
did
roadway?
collect the items that were in the roadway at the time, and then I was going to head to the police department to store them, and I got directed to another area.
Okay. And before you left Paseos neighborhood, did you wear gloves?
Yes.
When you were collecting the items? And how did you collect the items separately, or were they all packaged together?
No, I collect them as you see. I put, like, if it's a shirt, one shirt goes in one bag, another shirt will go in another bag. They won't go in the same bag. I won't put two shirts in the same bag, or two pair of pants, or a shirt and pants in the same bag, because I don't want them to commingle. So I want them to stay separate.
Okay.
Even if they were commingled on the scene, because sometimes you have to deal with the fire department cutting clothes off and putting them off, just throwing them off. So they might be mixed up. But even if they're commingled on the scene, I do not commingle them in my packaging.
Now, once you collected those items, did you go back to the police station, or did you go to another location that you were directed to?
I was redirected to the Jupiter Medical Center.
Okay.
See it up here.
And when you respond to Jupiter Medical Center, did you come in contact with someone by the name of Charlie Vorpagel?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were there, did you have an opportunity to photograph, take some pictures of his person, his body?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in the photographs, or what you photographed, did you notice that there were some scrapes or scars or injuries to his body?
Yes, he had some on his knees and on his arm.
Okay. And you took photographs of those as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What time would you say you cleared the scene at Paseos?
I checked mine.
Would that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Yes.
2:25 a.m.
2:25 a.m. And then do you know what time you arrived at Jupiter Medical?
2:30.
Okay, so it wasn't far away.
No, it's very close. It's like not even 5 minutes from where that location is.
That photo she's going to show you State Exhibit 284 through 293. Recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
Are they a fair and accurate representation of the photographs you took of Charlie Vorpagel, the early morning hours at this point of February 6, 2017?
Yes, it is.
At this time, the state would offer into evidence States Exhibits 284 through 293.
Any objection? Admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me show you a few of these photographs. Bryant. Are you able to tell us what we have here on the right hand? Or the corner up there? You want to use that?
Basically, I'm documenting the scrapes on his knee, and then I noticed a tattoo there, so I also photographed the tattoo in a different photograph. I think that's the left knee.
And that is 285. And I'll show you 287. What do we have here?
The scrape on his arm, it was like on the, I think it was right here somewhere.
And it appeared to be a fresh scar.
This one appeared to be like it was pretty new. I wasn't sure about the ones on the knees, but they looked somewhat fresh. So that's, yes. And in fact, I just photographed whatever injury, new or old, on him, just to document the injuries.
Okay. In addition to going to Jupiter Medical Center, at some point, did you go to Mohawk to assist with documenting search warrants inside the residence?
I did go somewhat later on in the morning.
Okay, I want to go on to that.
Okay.
Okay, and when was it that you made it to Mohawk to assist with this search warrant inside the residence?
It was still dark, but it was breaking dawn, so it was probably around, I don't know, close to 5, something like that.
Okay.
5 o'clock, 4 something like that. It was still dark out, so.
And when you got to the Mohawk residence, were you made aware of what items in particular you were going to be photographing, or was it just a photograph everything?
I met with CSI McClendon at that time, and she had already been working some of the scenes, so I asked her what she needed me to do, and she said if you could just do videos and backup photography. So I was basically like going behind her as she photographed after I videoed everything.
Okay. Did you photograph inside the house?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And were you given items to photograph, or did you kind of just walk through the house and take photographs of everything?
Again, it's the very first thing we do on any scene is overalls, mid-range, up close. So when I go to a house, I do the outside and the inside, and those are overalls. So we're just scanning the rooms and basically panning the camera at a certain angle and trying to get what's in each of those rooms and documenting just the room, the condition the room is in, and the house itself.
Inside of the house, this is 1105 Mohawk.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Did you photograph firearms that were found inside of the residence?
Yes, I did.
And were there multiple firearms that were recovered inside of the house?
Yes, there was.
Did you also photograph various drugs that were found inside of the house?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And were those items, if you recall, that you went and found, or did the detectives find the items and bring them to you or put them out? If, let's say, for example, they were found in a drawer, would they just call you over to the drawer and say, Bryant, will you photograph these items?
What happens is the detectives do the searches, and then we follow behind them, and if they have anything that they want documented as far as photography goes, they say, can you come here and photograph? And we, in order to not get confused about where something is, we try to either place a letter per room, and I think that's what we did at this scene. We did, like, when we first walked in the back door, it was like the kitchen and the dining room, and then you walk forward and you're in the living room. And so we had like A, B, the living room might have been B, but we had like A, B, C, D up to, I want to say E or F. I think that's how far we got. And then whatever's in room A, we focus on room A. Whatever's in room B, we focus on room B, and such as. But it's always a detective or a sworn officer that's looking through the property and then saying, can you come photograph this?
And do you go room by room?
Yes, we do.
And did you do that in this particular case at 1105 Mohawk? You started in one room and photographed whatever they asked you to photograph in that room and proceeded to the next?
Yes, I did.
And after photographing the interior of the house, you said there were guns, drugs, other items that were collected or observed and photographed. Did you collect those items?
I don't know if I collected them right then, because I think I got diverted to another scene. So, but eventually I did collect the items, yes.
Okay. And we'll come back to the house. You said that you were diverted to another scene.
Yes.
Did you ever respond to a location of I-95?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And do you recall who it was that requested that you go there?
I think it was Sergeant Lunsford, I believe. Lunsford or Lillingham, one of them, one of my supervisors. I believe it was Lunsford, though, because I think he was there.
Okay.
So.
And I'm going to approach and show you State Exhibits 263 to 283. I'm going to jump to the fence. Recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
And are these photographs that you took at the scene of I-95?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Are they fair and accurate representation?
Yes, they are.
At this time, the state offers its evidence, State Exhibit 263 through 283.
Any objection? No objection? Admitted. Sounds reasonable. All right, we've had a very full day. So the pictures have been admitted, Damien, just so we're all on track here. What are we up to? 294 pieces of evidence so far, photographs, etc. So a lot's happened, and I get you beat some traffic today. Jurors, everybody's okay with the early start? Anybody have an issue, childcare, any problems? Great, then I'm all in. Same drill. Don't talk about the case. Don't Google, Facebook, Twitter. Nothing at all, please, please, please. Don't read any newspapers, watch any television accounts. You'll turn your pads upside down, we'll collect them. I'll see you if you get here 8:15, between 8:15 and 8:30. We'll try to get started promptly. 8:30 is fine. If you're outside those glass doors again, just like this morning, and if you want to bring your lunches again, we got the refrigerators and everything that you need. Any questions? Great. Turn your pads upside down on your chairs. See you tomorrow morning. Watch your step. Make sure you got everything out of the jury room that's yours.
No objection from the